The city, home to a diversity of people, where race, sexuality, gender, and age does not matter. In cities, we all live so on top of each other, so closely intertwined, that cities are where progressive ideas flourish, where traditional protectionist ideas die. But the city, your city, is actually actively working to exclude people. And if you're not part of the unwanted group, you might not even know about it. This is why viewing the city through different eyes is so important. Yes, many times throughout history, cities have been the place for exchange of ideas, and where modern political and scientific development blossom. In fact, this exchange of goods and ideas were one of the driving factors of the first cities humans established. And if you think of areas where people are intolerant and want to exclude other people, odds are you're, at least in Western nations, thinking about rural areas rather than cities. In cities we see all types of people around us, and we grow used to each other. We will have an easier time seeing through stereotypes about this or that group, because we don't have to base our ideas on what we hear and are told, but can confirm or deny it based on what we see and feel. We might even get so close as to getting to know someone within whatever this group might be. Cities also have a younger population that might be more adaptive to new ideas and political change. But picture this street. What do you see? If this is close to where you live, or often visit, you might see people you know, or houses you know the tenants of. You might see stores you shop at, bars you sometimes visit with people you love. The street corner you might have helped a neighbor who had problems with his bike. You might see a park where your daughter regularly plays with her friends. Or you might see that square where you used to play when you were little. But you might also see dangerous traffic, the angry shop owner who follows you around the store. You might see that bar where drunken people usually harass girls that are walking by. You might see that broken curb that is so easy to get stuck in with the wheelchair. And if we change settings to a street you don't know, or if we make it nighttime, or winter, or we move to a suburban street with large individual houses, or a lonely, sparsely populated area, or a business district. All of these factors will change how you, depending on who you are, will view the area. For many people, the fear of crime, of different sorts and magnitudes, affect how and when you choose to move about a city. Some types of crime affect how large parts of the population move about, like the risk of being robbed. Some types, like the threat of catcalling, harassment, and sexual violence, affect women to a much higher degree than men. And threats of violence against different minority groups based on race or sexual orientation might have huge impacts on some people's lives, but go completely unnoticed by the majority. We're also not completely rational people, and we have individual traits that affect how we tackle a threat. Some people get so afraid of a perceived threat, it affects much of their existence. For others, it has close to no impact. Groups like young men, who are much more likely to be the victims of violence in public areas, are among the least afraid of it. More people instead see women or older people as most at risk. Humans also naturally exaggerate the risks of unfamiliar environments that we feel we cannot control, like a public street, over our own homes, despite we often being more at risk close to someone we know than a total stranger. Media also exacerbate this tendency. But it should be noted that we also feel less safe at home when we view our neighborhood as unsafe. For some people, the perceived risk of violence on the street pushes us to avoid the area completely or close to. But for some, this is not an option. This can be the reality of someone with working hours that forces them to get home late at night, or with limited economic opportunities to move around in other ways than by public transport or on foot. But it also is the reality of the people of one of the groups that are most regularly seen as unwanted or threatening in cities: the homeless. In the West, the deinstitutionalization that occurred in the 1960s and onwards forced many mentally ill and drug addicts to homelessness. Nowadays, cities are filled with elements and infrastructure specifically designed to keep the homeless away. Benches that you cannot sleep on, or the use of spikes or pillars or rocks in areas where you might otherwise be able to lay down, started to decorate our public areas. Or increasingly, just no benches at all. In combination with higher police enforcement and making sleeping in public illegal, cities can be very successful in fighting homelessness, or rather, pushing the homeless away to the city outskirts or away to other cities. Policing has in the same period gone from mainly on foot to mainly in cars to mainly behind screens using security cameras. And with the rise of private security, the cities are less responsible for the action of the law enforcement, making it less politically sensitive. Instead, private businesses and landowners became responsible of keeping their surroundings free from disturbance. Of course, it is not only the homeless that are supposedly creating an unsafe environment for the majority. For young people, the public street is the only place without adult supervision. In groups, they become gangs, no matter their intentions. And the use of loud classical or atonal music, or even just plainly loud sounds at such a high frequency, only young people are able to hear it, can be used to deter them away. Animals in cities has been a long battle for humans. While in richer cities, any domesticated animals outside pets, like livestock and horses, are long gone. In poorer areas, they are still very much an active part of city life. This comes with its own set of problems with waste and disease. Wild animals do too, not that we have noticed recently or anything. Wildlife in cities is limited though. Birds and insects and rodents and plants might be visible to us to a varying degree depending on your city, but they represent a small share of the species that inhabit the surrounding nature. And the species that do flourish in our cities often do so by adapting to living in a symbiotic relationship with humans. They are by all and large the result of how our cities function. We, on the other hand, see them mostly as disgusting and problematic. The hostile design used for deterring animals is, if possible, even more direct than the elements used to deter people. But in rich cities, we have also been greatly successful in pushing other parts of our economic and social life out of sight. Poorer cities are filled with waste, exacerbating problems with animals and disease. When waste is properly handled, and at least removed from cities, the problem with overconsumption become less obvious to us. In a similar fashion, externalities on the other hand of the production chain are hidden from us. Industries are now far away from rich cities, emissions, pollution, and resource extraction with it. To avoid any interfering with our traffic, on foot or by car, within city centers, the transportation needed to send goods in and take waste out is often out of sight as well, taking advantage of the early hours of the day, hidden by darkness. The public areas of a city can be used by minorities when media is looking away from their cause. This way, traction was created for civil rights movements by public protests and marches. Activists are using similar approaches today when they feel their cause is going unnoticed. The rights of LGBTQ people vary greatly around the world, but the cycle seems to be close to the same. In the West, underground establishments were founded in the 1960s and under heavy policing. With time, acceptance grew, interaction with an expanding nightlife economy overall, and a lessened need for keeping silent. Still, expressing sexual identity outside these areas can be associated with harassment and violence. But there is no coincidence that it was cities that acted as the soil for minorities desperately wanting to integrate, claim their rights, and gaining acceptance, and not suburbs or rural communities. Cities are, as we have established, a place for diversity, a place for life alongside people with other backgrounds and experiences, a place for acceptance. But certainly not inevitably, not without forces wanting otherwise. The city is by nature allowing anonymity that does not exist in suburbs or rural areas or even the mall. In homogeneous places like those, the out of place shine. With an increased focus on policing, hostile design, surveillance, private security, and even the most extreme cases of gated communities, cities run the risk of losing one of its strongest assets. Cities are where political and scientific development happens, where the change of goods and services and ideas foster a growing economy and increased prosperity. But that requires trust in the people around us, and it requires seeing the problems that cities are creating. An excluding city punishes the ethnical and sexual minorities, the poor, the homeless, the sex workers, the people with physical and mental disabilities first, and the hardest. But with time, we are all worse off. Thank you for watching.